Welcome to Spiritually Raw. We expose and explore controversial truths, myths, and theories surrounding the spirit world. Guests include QAnon experts, investigators, debunkers, and skeptics of the supernatural, unexplained, and flat-out unimaginable. Content discussed on this show is not necessarily the opinion of the cast of Spiritually Raw, and topics quite often are for mature audiences only. This show is not intended to replace any medical, financial, or legal advice and is for entertainment purposes only. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Hey, my name is Sherry Divban, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about what the CBD HempWorks products have done for me. Actually, they've changed my life, and let me tell you why. I started drinking the coffee about 2 months ago, and I'm a huge coffee drinker. And so I reluctantly tried it thinking that it's probably not going to taste strong enough, or it's not going to get me motivated in the morning to get moving like my really strong coffee that I've been drinking for decades. And so I tried it, and to my surprise, it was life-changing for me, because what it does is it wakes me up in the morning. I'm so motivated to get my work done. It's inspired me to come up and create an entire children's program that I have been thinking about doing for years. And since I started drinking that coffee, it really just lit a fire in me in such a beautiful way. It's caused me to really activate something inside of me that has laid dormant for so long. And I don't have that crash, you know, later in the day where you feel like, oh, I need to have another cup of coffee, because it really lasts. I take the melatonin as well, and it's really helped me with restful sleep. You know, running 2 businesses is really hard, and I am waking up all the time in the middle of the night, coming up with class ideas for the kids center. And although it's exciting, I really need my sleep. And so in the morning, if I'm not restful, it's really challenging the next day to get my work done. So the melatonin with CBD really helps me to sleep. And I also take the tinctures throughout the day, the liquid drops when I'm really feeling like I need a boost. And I can't tell you exactly in words really what these CBD products have done for me, but they really have changed my life in such a positive way, because it's activated my intuitive strengths and abilities, and it's really opened pathways inside that I never knew existed. And I just, as a mom, as an entrepreneur, I just can't recommend it enough to incorporate these products in your life in some way, shape, or form, because I've seen the transformation in myself. I've seen the transformation in many other people in my life that have started taking the products. And I really think that it could do something for most people watching this. And so I highly recommend that you find the products that work best for you, because I can pretty much guarantee that you'll find something. You just have to figure out what works and what activates your body that's right for you. So that's my story, and I hope that you guys find this helpful. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. How are you? And welcome to Spiritually Raw. We hope you woke to the most miracle morning and are also having the most fortunate day today. And thank you so much for your energy exchange. It's always great to spend these moments with you, especially when we are talking about birth certificates equals stock certificates. And we're going to find out more about that with Mr. R. Wayne Steiger, who is
Steiger.
Steiger, and I just asked him too. That's the beauty of what we do here, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, I do want to remind you all, before we bring on Wayne here, I want to remind you, if you're new to the channel or if you haven't already, kindly hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and share these videos with people. It does get the word out there, and we've got some amazing guests that are coming up here. So make sure again that you have subscribed and turned on that notification bell.
And please do join the Telegram channel. We greatly appreciate it. And real quick, if you guys are going to start, I mean, you're going to not. If you are going to start noticing, we're probably going to start posting 2 shows a day. And so what we're doing now is all of those awesome interviews that we had to delete from YouTube back in the day, a few months ago, we're putting them back on one at a time. So
Check them out.
If you didn't catch them the first time, you definitely catch them the second time because they're still awesome.
They really are. There's some great shows, great guests on there too. And a reminder, if you also too, for those of you like us who really feel like you need that mind, body, spirit reset, don't forget to visit our friends over at hempworks.com over there. You'll see the link above and see if they can help you the way that they have helped us. So enough about us, our guest.
Yeah. I'm so excited about this topic today. Welcome everybody. Wayne Steiger. And let me put my glasses on. Hold on. Now he has a channel. You're going to see it right there. His YouTube channel is dedicated to the philosopher who explores subjects from multiple points of view and is not limited to a particular creed, doctrine, religion, or political belief system, and never ceasing in the pursuit of knowledge. This is why we are a perfect match. If you consider yourself a critical thinker, then you find probably plenty to ponder and hopefully add to your experience. If you're not a critical or free thinker and you're bound by doctrine and dogma, then his channel is absolutely not for you. And I'm so excited to have Wayne on the show today because, as Jay mentioned, I've been hearing a lot over the months about how our birth certificates are actually traded on the exchanges, but I have not. And I have been searching and searching and searching for someone to come on the show to talk about it, and nothing until this week.
And you know what, everybody, I have to tell you, I'm about to hear this for the first time also because I've not heard what you're talking about.
Right, I know.
Until I think you said something to me this morning. Yeah, you're like, we have someone talking about birth certificates and stock certificates. I'm like, well, that's going to be good because I've never heard it either. So let's find out together. Join me in welcoming Mr. Wayne Steiger to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Jay and April. How are y'all doing?
Good. It's good to have you here with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's of course. A pleasure.
Let's dive right in here. Again, I just learned about this myself too. So birth certificates equal stock certificates. Can you elaborate on that one? Give us a little run there.
Yeah. In fact, I could probably share my screen with your audience. That might. Let's see. Share screen. There we go. Allow. I think I'm getting this right.
We'll find out together, Wayne.
We'll find out. Well, it's not wanting me to share this. Of course, it always happens right when you do the technical part. But to answer your question directly, April, there is a process that most people don't know, and that is on a person's birth certificate. It is actually made into a bond, of which the United States then takes you. And if you look at your birth, now let me digress here. When you get a birth certificate, that's not the original. The original is held with the Corporation of the United States of America. It is this, and if you look at the very small print at the bottom, you will see that says American Banknote Company.
Wow.
Now, when this happened, when the United States declared bankruptcy, it pledged all Americans as collateral against our national debt. It began to confiscate gold, as remember back in the Roosevelt era, and then again in the Nixon era. And since then, we've been off the gold standard, eliminating the means in which we could pay. Now, what's interesting is that they made us an exemption for having to pay anything. Because what do we use? We use a Federal Reserve note. Now, it gets all hand in hand. So what each and every one of us have is what we call our EIN number. That's your Social Security number. That is called the Exemption Identification Number. Now, this makes it to where you are now a bonded servant. Your birth is technically worth 100 years ago when they started this was worth about 2 million. Today's dollars, a little over $1 billion.
Whoa. Are you saying $1 billion per person?
Per person. Per person.
God.
You see, when you look at the national debt clock, in which I have pulled up right here, our national debt is, now this is the mandated debt, is nearly $30 trillion. Now, that is 140% over our gross domestic product. That The reason why we can be over our GDP, because if you did it personally, you would be bankrupt. But the United States has 350, and we're about to add another 40 million under this current administration. And each one of those people that come over, when they become a citizen, the United States takes from Mexico, Guatemala, wherever they came from. And now that country has to transfer that bond servant over to the United States.
This is crazy.
So I want to kind of digest this as we go along here, Wayne, if we can. So basically, would you consider us like a commodity of sorts?
We are chattel.
We're chattel. Okay. So
that's what we are.
Okay. So then when we come in, let's say roughly we're at, in today's future value, if you would, roughly today, then so we get a birth certificate, then that birth certificate now is worth $1 billion. Now, how is that
traded? How
is that redeemed, traded, and who? And I want to get clarification. So, like all these migrants, for example, coming over to rushing the border right now, once they get citizenship, is that the real reason for the push of trying to get them to citizenship? Just be able to say, okay, that's 1 million people times $1 billion. Is that the real reason? That's what it is. And then now Mexico now is responsible for saying, okay, now here you go. Now you guys have the bonds there.
And that's traded over in London.
And that's traded over London. What kind of platform is that even traded on? That
you, as a private citizen, you are not a private, because a citizen is basically a bond servant. You will never have the right nor access to trade in these particular exchanges. And these exchanges go back hundreds of years.
We're bond servants?
Yes.
We're walking bond servants.
You're actually a slave. Can I read you something to point this out, to really bring this home?
Yeah.
All right. So allow me to, we're going to kind of skip ahead, but understand in 1913, and it was a result of the 1889, when the United States could not pay its debt for the Civil War, we declared bankruptcy. It took approximately about 40 plus years to get this. And then let me read you what Woodrow Wilson, president 1913 to 1921. By the way, there's a great book out there called Jekyll Island. I would highly encourage everyone to buy that and read it, because then you find out how every citizen went from a sovereign to a bond servant. So Woodrow Wilson said the following: very soon, every American will be required to register their biological property. Yep, that's right. That's you and your children, in a national system designed to keep track of the people that will operate under an ancient system of pledging. By such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. Because the American dollar is worthless. It has absolutely no value at all. And I'll tell you a little bit further down the road, it's about to collapse. But anyway.
Can I ask you real quick?
Yes.
Did it ever hold value?
At one time, yes.
And when was that, and how?
About 1785. Oh. And it was primarily from the gold that we stole from the crown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Mr. President Wilson went on to say, every American will be forced to register or suffer being able to work and earn a living. Isn't that odd? Earn a living. They will be our chattels, our property, and we will hold the security interest over them forever. By operation of the law, merchant under the scheme and secure transactions. This is what we call maritime law. Americans, by unknowingly or unwittingly delivering the bills of lading, that's your birth certificate, to us, will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent, secured by their pledges, that's your life. They will be stripped of their rights and given a commercial value designed to make us a profit, and they will be none the wiser. For not one man in a million could even figure out our plans, and if by accident one or two should figure it out, we have our arsenal of plausible deniability. After all, this is the only logical way to fund government, by floating liens and debts to the registrants in the forms of benefits and privileges. This will inevitably reap us huge profits beyond our wildest expectations and leave every American a contributor to this fraud, which we will call Social Security insurance. Without realizing it, every American will unknowingly be our servant however begrudgingly. The people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office, the presidency, for our dummy corporation, the United States Corporation of America, to foment this plot against America.
And who wrote that?
Our former president, Woodrow Wilson.
Hail, Chief! Wow,
Whoa.
that's crazy. So, so when this is okay, so let me ask you this: so when the United States corporation goes bankrupt, then what happens to those our certificates? Do those then go to whoever the
you could become suddenly a bond servant to China?
That's what I was going to ask you. Then would we be a China property at that point?
Yes, you would be.
Okay, are we close to being a China property?
I believe we are, because we now know that the United States is participating along with Britain and a few other countries in transferring our DNA from the COVID pandemic over to the Chinese. The Bill Gates Foundation, if you've ever taken a genealogy test, your DNA is now in the hands of China.
So this is how they take control, because essentially what they're saying is it's not so much the debt is us, right? So are we the debt? So
we are the debt.
So basically they're saying, I'm just talking out loud here, Wade, please interject if I'm off. But so they're saying that well, that's our people now. So that's what they're coming in. So they're coming to redeem our value, not necessarily, you know, loans or anything like that. The actual value of us. We're the wow, that's
This is
digital currency, Bitcoin, and all of that is a fictitious. It's a hologram. There's only one true physical asset in the world. That's us. I mean, and that's exactly what the monetary system, and this system goes back all the way to the Sumerians. That's how old this system is.
This is the first time I've ever heard anything like this.
This is the first time most people are going to be hearing this.
Sense.
Yes. Chattel, is that cash and cattle mixed together? Chattel?
It's a physical.
It's property. It's what it means in the Old English.
It's like real property, right? Like real physical, like this microphone kind of thing. Wow. Okay. So then now we have been enlightened that, okay, there's stock certificates on us right now. So let's say, for example, do the stock certificates, when they're traded, do they have to be, like, can anybody just say, okay, well, let me just trade April and Jay, or is it like a whole country that is traded? I mean, how's that?
It's a whole country.
So it is a whole, so it's not an individual per se.
No. And what they use is fractals, fractions, just like Bitcoin. You see the system? It's all freaking corrupt. I was involved because my background is the payment industry. I was involved with the beginning founders of the first Bitcoin back in 2011. And the system was designed exactly the same blueprint that every system of barter or trade has ever been based upon in humanity's history. And we get this primarily from the Sumerian cultures dating back nearly 9,000 years ago.
So when people talk about concepts out there, Wayne, like, okay, well, the government now is going to restructure their currency. There's going to be global currency resets because now the government needs to owe us what's rightfully ours. Are they basically paying us back for our own worth, or is that the theory behind what they're trying to say?
They're trying to say that, but isn't it interesting? And go and look at the patent that was just recently approved, awarded to Microsoft. Microsoft has now figured out a way to make us a Bitcoin, a digital currency. What they're calling it is biocurrency.
Oh my God.
This gets really weird, folks, because the platform for Bitcoin can't go on. What is Bitcoin based on?
Air.
Exactly. What is your bank account based on?
Air. Debt.
Yeah. Debt. I mean, if you look at the National Debt Clock, go to nationaldebtclock.org, you get the shock of your life. Now, I was involved one time with a very elite far right. They called us far right. It was called the Council for National Policy. We met with congressmen, Supreme Court justices. We had access to the power base. And here's what the American people need to know. When they passed the Affordable Care Act, in the provisions, and I read all 2,816 pages of that.
God bless you.
At least I know what they're up to. There is a provision in there that when you put your money into a bank, it's now basically confiscated funds of the federal government, i.e. the national banks. And you can't pull your money back out. You can take out a certain point, but isn't it odd that the banks will literally cut you off and not give you access to it? So to finish my story out here, I worked for the Federal Reserve as a consultant. Here's what we're being set up for. And the reason why we are in such of a spending spree is that because they're not going to pay it back. And when the China yuan, the digital China yuan goes live, and they were going to do it this April, but the Biden administration pushed them back, and China said, okay, they're going to give it about another 10 months. When that goes live, the greenback goes to zero value. Now, the Fed Bitcoin is already printed. It's all ready to be issued and go out. The only problem is that China is demanding that the Fed do an audit, because China is backing their digital yuan with gold. And so any other currency...
Wasn't the United States supposed to do that too?
Supposed to, but here's the complication. To do an audit means that we're really going to find out what the Fed is all about. And I don't see Yellen doing that.
Yeah, okay, so you just said a whole lot in a short amount of time.
I did.
Okay, so
we only got so much time.
Right, we have about 35 minutes left.
Okay, good.
So we could do a part 2 though, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So the Bitcoin right now is like the talk of the town. Everybody, even if everybody and their mother and their grandmother is talking about Bitcoin. And for years, you always have people saying, oh, it's going to hit 50,000. Then when it hits 50,000, it's going to go to 100 and then 500,000. And that's when it was like at 5,000. It's actually at 50,000 now. But you're saying you think it's going to crash and burn?
It undoubtedly. What is the Bitcoin backed by? Again, it's digital currency. And, you know, we years ago made strategic investments in silver. We saw it coming. It's not the gold, it's the silver. But anyway, it's the gold platform that, you know, the central banks for the longest time have been saying that it's not possible for a country really to basically back its currency with hard assets such as gold. China has. And now it's going to be the biggest play on the markets. And here, let me just tell you, this is just my take on Bitcoin. This is the suckers round. You know, the real money has already gotten out. And now it's the small guy that's getting in and it's going to get burnt. And this is repeated. It's the way the system is designed. This is GameStop all over again.
Right.
I mean, it would literally have to go down to about, I mean, would you, from your opinion, because it happened before when it went to 25,000 and it tanked down again, would you, from your opinion, think that if it does drop from 50 down to, let's say, 2,000 again or 5,000, is that basically, is it over, do you think, for Bitcoin, or do you think is it going to cycle back through as another?
Well, I think it would be basically, how should we say, merged with another platform.
Merge with
but now think about this. You've got people now that are banking, and I know I have some family members that, and I've tried to tell them, but they got gold fever, the Bitcoin fever, because every day they're checking, and then now they're checking almost every, you know, hour, every 10 minutes to see what's happening.
Right.
Yeah. And the warning signs is when you start seeing fluctuations of deep dives, deep rises, eventually, I don't see how it can be sustained. Because now it's getting in the small people's, the small investors' money, and that's problematic every time.
Wayne, I want to ask you this: with the actually, let me stay on the currency for just a minute.
Right? I have a couple currency questions
and then I'll circle back there. So the what's your view on now the push, a very aggressive push for that silver play right now to be able to buy out that market so the banks can default on their loans? What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting, yeah. Silver's becoming a very interesting play. If you remember back in the 80s, the Hunt brothers had monopoly on the silver market. And I made a fortune off that. Because
congratulations.
Well, thank you. Well, we're seeing the same thing we're seeing today. Remember, because silver back then, you could buy it for, at one point, I think about $1.05, $1.06 an ounce. And then all of a sudden, when the Hunt brothers came in there and began to do their manipulation, framing a shortage, which was never really a shortage, the price drove up. I think today we're on a different ocean. This ocean here is trying to detach itself from a debt system so that there is some legitimacy to the currency. And that's a problem when we have fiat currencies. The United States has been a fiat currency for nearly 60 years. We have nothing to back it up, and the world has bought into it. And when the world bought into it, their currencies became. And that's how George Soros made his money. He made his money by wrecking countries' currencies. He's heavily betting against the United States right now. Why? Because he knows. And here's my point to answer your question. The central banks are the private club. You're never going to be offered an invitation to that club. It goes back way back. They got bloodlines that, you know, I could get into this on another topic, but for thousands of years. And the system that we're under today is a debt system. And a debt system cannot work where you have the balance sheet where you actually have to the positive. Doesn't work. If everyone, for instance, had $1 million would no longer be worth $1 million.
Right, exactly. Where do you see silver going? We'd like to share a story. While it may sound fictional, it's very real and happening right now in front of our very eyes. It's called The Great Awakening. Our sisters and brothers that come on Spiritually Raw are doing everything to help expand global consciousness, and in many cases putting everything on the line to share their messages about what's happening around the world for the greater good of humanity, while exposing the truth of the deep state and the dark forces behind it all. We are living in the most unbelievable times. Some may even say biblical, scary for many and yet exhilarating for others. Together we are taking part in getting everyone acclimated to the Great Awakening process and the exciting new discoveries that lie ahead. The sad part is many of our amazing guests are being heavily censored, socially shamed, and outright banned on many platforms for exposing the truth and piercing the veil. By becoming a viewer, you bring your powerful energy towards this global movement of other truth seekers. If you're resonating with our show, please let us know by hitting the like button, sharing, subscribing, turn on the notification, and leave some comments. Together, we will turn the universal key to global harmony and create a unified world. And remember, tune in often, tell all your friends, and most importantly, may all your dreams come true. Thanks, and God bless Patriots worldwide.